Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. All glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Hari Hari Bol. Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. So today we are reading Canto 1, Chapter 9, text number 21. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskrityam Naranchayo Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. So today's shloka I will recite 3 times and then you can repeat it, please. Sarvat Manaha Samadrasho Hi Advayastha Isyana Hankrate Tat Kratam Pati Vaishamya Niravadhyashana Pachit. Sarvat Manaha Samadrasho Hi Advayashyana Hankrate Tat Kratam Mati Vaishamyam Niravadhyashana Pachit. Sarvat Manaha Samadrasho Hi Advayashyana Hankrate Tat Kratam Mati Vaishamya Niravadhyashana Pachit. Please recite.
Hare Krishna. Sarvatmanaha samadreso hridayasya anahankrite tatkritam ati vaishramya niravadhyasya na kvachit. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sarvatmana samadrishyo hi advayasya na hankrite tatkritam mati vashamyam naravadhyasya na kvachit. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Sarvatma Sama Drishto Hita Bishay Anandhitro Tat Trema Mati Vishamam Narvadye Ni Haitakit.
Sarvatmana samadrisho hai advayasyayana hankrite tatkritam mati vaishamyam niravadhyasya na kvachit.
Sarvatmana samadrisho hi advaisya anahankrite tatkritam mati vaishamyam niravadhyasya na kvachit.
Hare Krishna. Sarvatmana samadresho hiya advayasya hankrite tatkritam mati vaishyayam niravadhyasya na kvachit. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, I had to go to a different computer altogether. But okay, I'm on. I know you are repeating the Sanskrit, so please go on repeating the Sanskrit. At the end, I'll do word for word after that.
Nobody is there.
I think, Parikshit Prabhuji, you have to go ahead.
I have to do it? Okay.
Yeah.
I apologize profusely. Sarvanatmana samadrisho yadvayasyana ankrite tatkritamati vaishamyam niravadyasya niravadyasya kwachit. Hare Krishna. So, word for word. Okay. Sarvatmana, of one who is present in everyone's heart. Samadhisha, of one who is equally kind to one and all. He, certainly. Advayasya, of the absolute. Anahankrite, free from all material identity of false ego. Tat Kritam, everything done by him. Mati, consciousness. Vaisamyam, differentiation. Niravvasyaya, freed from all attachment. Na, never. Kwachit, at any stage. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Being the absolute personality of Godhead, he is present in everyone's heart. He is equally kind to everyone, and he is free from the false ego of differentiation. Therefore, whatever he does is free from material inebriety. He is equibalanced. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Because he is absolute, there's nothing different from him. He is Kaivalya. There's nothing except himself. Everything and everyone is the manifestation of his energy, and thus he is present everywhere by his energy, being none different from it, just as the sun is present wherever there is sunshine. The sun is identified with every inch of the sun's rays and every molecular particle of the rays. Similarly, the Lord is distributed by his different energies. He is Paramatma, or the Supersoul, present in everyone as a supreme guidance, and therefore he is already the chariot driver and counsel of all living beings. When he therefore exhibits himself as a chariot driver of Arjuna, there is no change in his exalted position. It is the power of devotional service only that demonstrates him as the chariot driver or the messenger. Since he has nothing to do with the material conception of life, because he is absolute spiritual identity, there is for him no superior or inferior action. Being the absolute personality of Godhead, he has no false ego, and so he does not identify himself with anything different from him. The material conception of ego is equibalanced in him. He does not feel, therefore, inferior by becoming the chariot driver of his pure devotee. It is the glory of the pure devotee that only he can bring about service from the affectionate Lord. Om Ginati Mirandasya Gyana Gyana Shalakaya Chakshu Om Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swam Parantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Tapatakamadam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupa Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadvitam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Scha E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Paramami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhescha Kripa Sundhi Evacha Pritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Shari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Peshtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamina Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvishesha Sunyavari Paschatya Shitarani Mo Mahabharandaya Krishna Prema Padayati Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gurachache Namaha Nanda Lila Maya Vigrahaya Himabhya Lila Chavishindaraya Rasmi Mahaprema Raspalaya Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Hare Krishna. Again, I apologize for things that was just simply beyond my control. The translation: being the absolute personality of Godhead, he is present in everyone's heart. He is equally kind to everyone, and he is free from the false ego of differentiation. Therefore, whatever he does is free from material inebriety. He is equibalanced. So who is speaking? This is one of the 12 Mahajans, Bhishma Dev, who is getting ready to leave the body in the presence of Krishna, Pandavas, and so many sages who knew of what was going on. And they came to see the glorious transition from the body of Bhishma Dev. So Krishna is there, and Bhishma is describing his realizations from looking at Krishna and knowing what he knows about Krishna. So he said, being the absolute personality of Godhead, Krishna Stu Bhagavan Swayam. He is present in everyone's heart. And as we're told in Srimad Bhagavatam, the first canto, Vadanti tat tatvavidam tatvadyat kyam advayam prameti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabdyate. Learned transcendentalists who know about Krishna, who know the Supreme Personality of Godhead, describe him in three features: impersonal Brahman, the Paramatma, and the Bhagavan. And by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, devotees connect to the full personality of God, of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Bhishma here is saying that he is present in everyone's heart, referring to the Paramatma feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is equally kind to everyone. Srila Prabhupada describes that Krishna is like the sunshine, and the sunshine is available for everybody. There is no partiality. So the kindness can be related to the way the sunshine spreads its rays to every situation. And Srila Prabhupada continues that it's up to us as devotees to focus our attention on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just like the analogy of a sun, Srila Prabhupada says that if the sun is shining and we turn our heads away from the sun, then we are the ones that don't want the effect of the sunshine. In fact, literally, he says that if you close your door tight, roll your windows, and Krishna, roll your curtains up and cover it, then that is your business. You've decided not to get the benefit of the sunshine. That is your business. But Krishna is equal to everyone. Saman Charantan. So we have to connect with him, serve his devotees, and that is the business of Krishna consciousness. This is a lecture he gave about Queen Kunti, actually, and he ended it that way. So Krishna is equally kind to everyone. And he is also free from a false ego of differentiation. He's on an absolute platform. Therefore, everything about him is him. Therefore, there can't be a differentiation. He's the cause of all causes, as Lord Brahma says. Again, it connects to the same point. We are the ones in the material world trying to be the ones that are controllers. And so the ego that we have should be really at the position of servant of a servant of a servant, but we try to control and lord it over material nature. And therefore, Krishna has put us in this situation. His ego is a real ego. He is a controller and the creator of everything. Therefore, he reserves the right. He literally reserves the right to be served by us, his creation. So Bhishma continues, therefore, whatever he does is free from material craziness, drunkenness, inebriety. He's equibalanced. He's always equipoised. It's interesting when you watch or hear, sometimes they made videos of it that you can also watch. Krishna's pastimes when he was little, by his own sweet will. And Kamsa was sending all of these demons to Vrindavan. The way he handled each one of them, this goes to show his power, and he would make it a very interesting situation for the cowherd boys. The cowherd boys saw him kill one demon after another. So they knew that no matter how that particular situation dealing with the demon sent by Kamsa would pan out, Krishna would win in the end. So for them, they were absolutely convinced about the superiority of Krishna in front of all of these demons that seemed to be so powerful. He got rid of every one of them in a unique way. And the cowherd boys definitely got more and more confident in being with their supreme friend, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his childhood pastimes. Whatever he does is free from material inebriety. So Srila Prabhupada says in the purport that because Krishna is absolute, there's nothing different from him. He is Kaivalya, there's nothing except himself. And that is a very important point that we have to remember. Without Krishna, there can't be anything. Without Krishna, they literally can't be anything, material or spiritual. Everything has emanated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. From the spiritual, the material is created. From Lord Vishnu, Karanodakshaya Vishnu, then the universes come in their unmanifested form. And as we know, the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is the one that trains Lord Brahma for each universe to bring about the varieties. But everything starts with the expansion of Krishna, Karanodakshaya Vishnu for the material world. Spiritual world is the expansion of Balaram. Balaram is the first plenary expansion of Krishna. So ultimately, everything comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada also gives the analogy. Just as the sun is present everywhere. You know the sun's present everywhere by the sunshine, which is everywhere when the sun is available. The Lord distributes his different energies, just like the sun rays, in every molecular particle of the rays also distributes the shine. And Bhishma says he is Paramatma, super soul, present in every living entity, present in everyone as a supreme guidance. We cannot do anything unless the super soul sanctions the activity. But the super soul is not responsible for what kind of activity, though. That's on us. If we do things that are in line with the devotional service of the Lord, we are getting ourselves to the point where at the time of death, we will remember Krishna, relate to devotees properly. They will come and assist us at the time that we're getting ready to leave, transition to leave the body. and help us to remember Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we are in many ways fortunate, but just like the saying goes, you can take a horse to the bank of the river, but you cannot force the horse to drink the water. That's on us. We are the horse. By Srila Prabhupada's mercy, we have been taken to the river that is clean and connects us with our original nature. Then it's up to us, our free choice. Krishna doesn't interfere with that. Paramatma doesn't interfere with that. Are we going to drink that water? Water that saves us, water that makes us understand spirituality again. All kinds of people in this world use all kinds of definitions of spirituality, but we know that ultimately spirituality means connecting with the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a servant in devotional service from our hearts, not expecting anything. There shouldn't be any ulterior motive, and we should not stop. If our bodies get old, we may adjust the service that we do. We can adjust, but we don't stop. We don't stop. Srila Prabhupada never stopped. Even on his deathbed, he was still translating. Was concerned. And at the time that his body got very weak, he still wanted to check in a few places. He wanted to go to London, Britain, and then to the United States, particularly to Gideon Hagri. But when he did in fact get to the UK, but when the body was giving too much trouble, the disciples literally begged him to return. To look like his time for leaving was actually getting closer and closer. So then he returned back to India, Vrindavan. He left his body there, serving the Supreme Personality of God by translating. And by his work, we've gotten so much now. And by the quality of the work, especially since you made these explanations so simple, that anyone that's come to Krishna consciousness for the first time can read Srila Prabhupada's books and get so much from it. So it's on us now to distribute, to make sure that it's available for those who are ready, who are hungry, are looking for transcendental knowledge, get to it. So, Srila Prabhupada says the purport, it's the power of devotional service that demonstrates him as the chariot driver or messenger. So, from the point of view of Krishna's expansion as the super soul, he's actually helping us, assisting us, just like as a chariot driver, he assisted Arjuna. He always assists us. Paramatma is in the heart area. Now, Paramatma is being in the heart area, true enough, but the Paramatma is the one that sanctions everything that we do. And our intelligence connected to the super soul gets information about the right thing to do at any time. It's a question of us wanting to choose to do the right thing because we also have free choice. Now, Srila Prabhupada says, since Krishna has nothing to do with the material conception of life, he's spiritual because he's the absolute spiritual identity. For him, there is no inferior, there is no superior action. Still, one of the qualities of Krishna is Krishna is, or Krishna has the power of, or the opulence of renunciation. So what do we mean, or when Srila Prabhupada says that, or translates that renunciation? What is renunciation for us, and what is renunciation for Krishna? So let's look at that. For us, what do we own? Well, we come to the world, we don't have anything. we leave, Krishna takes everything away. So what do we really have? Nothing. We don't have anything. We are born with nothing. We can't live with anything. Even in this material world, we cannot. So our situation is, can we really renounce something we don't own? Not really. Not really. But Krishna watches what we do after some of the material things come into our possession temporarily, right, for the lifetime. Watches what we do. If we use it for sense gratification, then we're not practicing renunciation. For us, it's just a question of taking what we have and using our intelligence to come up with ways to serve with that item or that ability to serve Krishna, serve Guru, and Krishna's devotees. If we do that, then we're not into sense gratification. Sense gratification is taking those things and serve our own senses for our satisfaction. So if we serve Krishna's senses to us, that's renunciation. That's renunciation. So what is renunciation with respect to Krishna, the absolute personality of Godhead? But he also owns everything. Can he renounce? He owns everything now. He owns everything. Even from my little tiny brain, how can a person that owns everything renounce something? Well, for Krishna, it has to do with his level of power, which is what? I didn't like this, but there's nothing like this for Krishna. Krishna is unlimited. So his renunciation is when, even though he is a supreme personality, when he does service that, at least from all accounts, is menial, then he's exhibiting his opulence of renunciation. For example, in the Kurukshetra war, Arjun and Duryodhana were made to have two choices. Two choices, choose one. The Narayani army, the Lord's army, or the Lord himself, not wanting to fight. Arjun chose Krishna. What did Krishna do for Arjun? Krishna was Arjun's chariot driver. Now, chariot driver, that particular job is considered menial. So when Krishna does that, then, and as he did in the Battle of Kurukshetra, then he is exhibiting his opulence of renunciation. So the Lord can take the highest and can take the lowest, and Krishna can do in any kind of situation, exhibit his pastime. So for him, the Battle of Kurukshetra, people were very serious about it. Duryodhana wanting a whole kingdom. But for him, it was his pastime, and it was exhibiting the opulence of renunciation. So the Lord owns everything, but when he does things that are menial, then that is exhibit of his power renunciation. We can't own anything, so whatever is in our name, right, as soon as we leave this body, is no longer in our name, which means we never really own it, and we cannot own anything permanently, not even this physical body. So that's our situation. What's our permanent situation? A permanent situation is the understanding that we're not these physical bodies. We are the soul, and place where we can have the greatest enjoyment is back in the spiritual world, where the soul will be in bliss. And this is where Srila Prabhupada is looking to take us. So Krishna is a seed-giving father in the material nature. Savayo nishu konteya, bodhaya sambhavantiya. Rasham pama mahad yoni aham bija pradapita. So that is Bhagavad Gita, 14th chapter, text 4. And Srila Prabhupada translates it that it should be understood in all species of life, O son of Kunti, they are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving father. So every universe and every planet in the universe is populated by living entities. And Krishna is the father. Material nature, Mother Krishna impregnates material nature. Living entities are present then. They come to being. Living entities are on every planet. I remember the first time that I came to Krishna consciousness in the early 90s. And of course, what we knew in science at that time, people knew that, well, it's easy to see the Earth. We are on the Earth. All kinds of living entities are on the Earth, human and not human alike on the Earth. But what about the other planets? Not much was known for the other planets. And for the first time, this is why Krishna consciousness is so great. I heard that every planet is populated. And then there was more. Every planet is populated on the surface of it, as well as within the planet. So inside and also on the surface, for every material planet, there are living entities. And Krishna is the source of all of them. And each one is a part and parcel as far as the soul level goes. So everywhere there are living entities. Within the earth, living entities, water, fire, living entities. All of them are impregnated and come into being through Krishna. Again, in the translation, we see another point that's quite important. Bhishma says that Krishna is equally kind to everyone. The kindness of Krishna is the reason we're even able to make it at all from one day to another. The kindness of the Lord. So that quality of Krishna, kindness, we should be very grateful. Because many, many, many times, and I know it's occurred in my life, and I'm sure when I bring it up, you'll see it's occurred in your life too. Many, many, many times, we are faced with danger, and Krishna pulls us out of it. Many, many times, you pull it out of, sometimes, I'll give you some examples of what actually happened to me. Many times we pull out of it and we don't even realize, or in the last minute where there could be some trouble, Krishna actually brings our attention to it and makes it possible for us to get out of that situation. Now I'll talk about my own example one time. So I was returning home after teaching. That time I was teaching at a university. And when I was going to teach there, I had to live in another small area, small apartment, because it was 3 hours away from where my house actually is, my family is. So one evening it was cold, snowy on the side, the road had been plowed. I was on the highway, driving 3 hours to get back to Giranadi, 3 hours one way. And I was tired, seemed like, so I actually, not at all. So if I'm still in one piece, it means Krishna already saved me, because anything could have happened to me. Somehow I was jolted back to consciousness. And when I looked at the car, I was driving a Toyota Camry, a white Toyota Camry, and I found that my foot was on the brake pedal. Now I know I didn't put my foot there. My foot was on the brake pedal and I was in the curve. And the car was turning wonderfully according to the curve. So which means my hands on the steering wheel and my foot going to the brake pedal were not done by me. Neither one of them. And still, Krishna woke me up at the time where I just came consciousness, because definitely I'm not alone. I mean, there was no question about it. And I was so thankful, because this could have gone off, and with the snow on the side of the road, who knows what would have happened. So Krishna protects us so many times. I mean, I've all kinds of stories, as I'm sure you have your own also. But Krishna's kindness goes so far in all situations that he is really the protector. And if we think in terms of that alone, Krishna being the supreme protector, then everything that happens to us, you'll know that there's some lesson to learn from it. You won't be so confused or bothered, as long as we are praying for Krishna's shelter, shelter for us. Some things would happen in life, that's true. because it's like full of what? Trials and tribulations, there's happiness and distress. So that was, some things would be there, but Krishna's hand is always seen through everything that happens in our lives. So speaking about that, there's 64 principles laid by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada. I would like to focus on principle number 3. And in principle number 3, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj says, anyone does not serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, 2 things about him. That person is ignorant and also a killer of himself. Anyone who does not serve Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is ignorant and a killer of himself. So those who don't embrace spiritual nourishment by service, they are considered killers of themselves because they are not addressing the needs of the soul. Now, the overwhelming majority of people in the world now are not addressing the needs of the soul out of ignorance, out of wanting to satisfy their own senses. So in the 3rd text of Sri Upanishad, it also pretty much echoes the same thing Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj is saying. The killer of the soul, whoever he may be, what happens to them? They must enter into the planets known as the worlds of the faithless, and is full of darkness and ignorance. We have to remember that the human body is obtained after many millions of years in the cycle of transmigration, one body to another. And so now that we are in this human body, the human form, we should never take devotee life for granted. We should always seek higher association so we can grow in Krishna consciousness ourselves as one. And we should always feel ourselves fortunate and thankful that we are devotees. No matter how much the challenges come in this world, that would be there. Challenges are also Krishna's blessing in the sense that it reminds us that we are not home. In home, there is bliss. Here, there's challenges. So the distinction is there. So the challenges should be seen that I am not home. If I was home, some of these troubles would not, none of these troubles would bother me, would even come upon me. And therefore, I have to take the spiritual life that I've been taught seriously, learn more about it, and live according to it from my heart with determination and with enthusiasm. Very, 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 very important. So we are fortunate to have Vedic scriptures. We have their charges or saintly teachers, and they can be compared to the expert boatmen. You are in a boat in this world that is troublesome, just like when you're in the ocean. Sometimes the weather is nice, the seas are calm, you can be on the boat and be okay. And sometimes the boat rocks, all kinds of situations, and then we get seasick. But the expert boatman, no matter what is going on, can still help us stay on the boat. So Prabhupada actually explains even that all we have to do is to hang on the boat itself and take the instructions given by the boatman when they tell us do this, don't do this, do this, don't do this, is to help us stay on the boat that is being guided by them, the destination, which is the spiritual world. So we are given the facilities of a human body. Facilities of a human body that we have are the favorable breezes that help the boat to go towards its desired destination, as long as we are using our intelligence. As long as we are using our intelligence. That's important. Because there are people who are other souls in human bodies who are literally off the boat because they are in the water trying to swim on their own. That's material life. And that doesn't get them anywhere. But those of us that have said yes to Krishna, we are on the boat with experts that are chargers, saintly persons who are guiding us. So we are fortunate, and if we can reach those who are in the ocean, not on a boat, and convince them that it's easier to come on a boat and get guided than try to swim on your own, then of course, Krishna will be pleased with us when we do those kinds of activities in serving. That's why book distribution is important. That's why prasadam distribution is important. All of those need people who are in the water and not on the boat to get to the boat. Now, when things become rough in the ocean and the big waves even come over the boat, the expert boatmen, the acharyas, will tell us what to do, but no matter what it is that they say, it is on us to hang on to the boat itself, not be blown by the temptation of Maya in the form of waves, get us off. We should stay on the boat no matter what happens, and the destination will definitely arrive because we are being taken there, the spiritual world. So the same teachers, the acharyas, when we relate to them, their presence help us to do the right things in Krishna consciousness. They are here to guide us. They know this is not home for us, and they know it's not home for them either, but they have come to guide us. Any association, even for a moment, with a pure devotee can help us to move towards the goal, to become pure devotees ourselves, ultimately. Krishna has come with his intimate associates, some of them as people, some of them as like Govardhan Hill. You remember Govardhan Hill in Vrindavan? There's a particular pastime associated with Govardhan Hill, and I'd like to end by talking about this particular pastime from the Garga Samhita. So I'll go straight into it. Pastime begins with a particular Brahman, and the Brahman was in the Govardhan Hill area, very much immersed in the ecstasy of service to the Lord. So one day, in order to repay the debt he owed the sages and ancestors, this Brahman is called Vijay. He went to Mathura, and in the area, of course, he immersed himself in transcendental activities. He performed his religious duties, and then he left there and he went to Govardhan Hill. And then when he went, again, he offered respect to Govardhan Hill, and he took one of the stones, the rocks in Govardhan Hill. Now, he was just immersed in such ecstasy and was moving around in a leisurely way, forest of Vrindavan, one to another, and then he finally got to a point where he left the circle of Raja. And at that moment, he saw a very horrible Rakshasa approaching him. And it became clear to him that this big Rakshasa, he had 3 heads, he had 3 chests, he had 6 arms, he had 6 legs, and a huge nose, and his hands were raised in the air. And believe me, he wasn't doing like Golden Tie. He was really coming up to the sky. So he was making all kinds of strange noises, and the Brahman didn't know what to do. It was clear that the monster was wishing to eat him, eat his flesh, and it was coming right in the path of Brahman. So in the very last minute, Brahman was holding still the Govardhan stone and then threw it and hit this monster. And as soon as he hit the monster fell and gave up his body. Now, so the danger is gone, right? Well, in one sense, but the pastime is not over. So the body that gruesome, fearsome, Rakshasa type body. That was gone. But from that emerged a very handsome, dark person, large lotus petal eyes. He was wearing yellow garments. He was garlanded with forest flowers. He was wearing a crown and earrings. Points of Krishna, right? In fact, he was holding a flute and a stick. So it was pretty close to the way Krishna handles himself. He came towards this Brahman and bowed, offered obeisances to the Brahman again and again. So the Brahman was blown away by all of this. The liberated soul now said to the Brahman, "Best to the Brahmins, you have earnestly done a wonderful thing to me. You work for the salvation of others." See, he's thinking that I'm in a demon's body and now I've been saved. Therefore, this particular person that threw the Govardhan stone at me, maybe that's what he does. He just goes around and then tries to save people because he really saved me. You've rescued me from a monster's life. But this was all very surprising to the Brahman because he didn't know what to do. He was going to be eaten, he was going to be killed, and he was holding the Govardhan stone. But of course, as Krishna does things, he had already pre-planned this. And when he went to Govardhan, he was this Brahman, he picked up a stone, and all he did was throw the stone at this. And that's not a big stone, just enough to just hurl it at him, and all of this situation happened. Good fortune has now come to this soul in this Rakshasa body. Now he's dressed so nicely, and his dressing reminds, in fact, he says that he looked as beautiful as Kamadev. This is how handsome he was. So the Brahman told him, this liberated soul, "I'm really, really astonished by your words. I have no power to save anybody. But at least you can tell me something. You were coming after me when you were in a demon's body, and now look at you now. Wonderful. So what happened? How did you get into this whole demon body situation?" So this liberated soul began to explain. He says, "In the previous birth, I was a wealthy, righteous son. From childhood, I indulged myself in gambling, and I was ruining my life. But somehow, I couldn't stop it. Then I got into drinking alcohol. Then I got into chasing after prostitutes. So my life was getting worse and worse and worse. So my father, my mother, and I was married. My wife, all of them rebuked me again and again and again. But it didn't change. So rather than take the advice from his family members, parents and wife, one day he said he killed his parents with poison. And with a sword, he killed his wife and took all their money and went to one of the prostitutes south in India. And he became a very merciless thief then because he had no way to go on, but he was stealing from others. And then one day, after a disagreement with the prostitute, he also threw the prostitute into a blind well and left the prostitute to die there. And then he became a very, very troublesome person. He killed hundreds and thousands of people just to take their money. He said he was so greedy after money that as a highwayman, he murdered thousands of Brahmanas, many thousands of Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, anyone that came in his path, murdered him. Then one day he was hunting in the forest for deer and he stepped on a snake. The snake bit him and he died. You can imagine what happened to the person who's committed so much problems when he died. Yamadutas came and grabbed him and beat him with terrible clubs and tied him up and dragged him to hell. First, Yamaraj had him taken to the hell called Kumbhipaka in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, text, chapter 26, that area, different hells are described. In fact, there are groups of hellish planets, 28, and all of them. And Billy Goswami describes all of them. One of them is Kumbhipaka. Now, Kumbhipaka, he stayed there for one Manvantara. By the way, Kumbhipaka, that particular hell's planet, is the place where people who mercilessly boil animals or birds and so on to eat them, to eat their flesh, they are sent to that particular one and they are put in boiling oil, and they are boiled like that too. It's very, very painful. He was there for one Manvantara. That is the lifetime of a month, 72 Yuga cycles. And then, one Kalpa, he was forced to embrace a red hot iron statue of a woman because he was into prostitution. He suffered greatly. And then he says, by the desire of Yamaraj, he's explaining, he was thrown into 8,400,000 different hells. He had to suffer there also. And then after that, based on his karma, he got to Bhadvasha. For 10 births, he was a pig. For 100 births, he was a tiger. And then for 100 births, he was a camel. And another 100 births, he was a buffalo. And then he talked about the one that he suffered the most. For 1,000 births, he was a snake. And in each one of them, wicked men killed him, never died naturally as a snake. Every time he was killed. As you well know, people come across snakes and the first thing they want to do is get rid of them. So as he killed so many people, in that birth as a snake, he was killed over and over and over again. Then after 10,000 years of these births, then he was born as a grotesque and wicked monster. And that is the monster that was coming after this Brahman. As a matter of fact, for a short while, he had the opportunity, this was before he became a monster, to be a Shudra in Raj. But he said that Lord Krishna's friends also beat him with sticks. So even there, he was still suffering. And he had to flee the land of Raja. Now, so he was hungry for many days in the monster body. So when he saw the man, he saw the Brahman, he came to eat the Brahman, and the Brahman threw a stick, the stone at him, and that's what converted. So he said, by Lord Krishna's kindness, I became very fortunate. Now, notice that the story, main point about the story is, it was the rock, the stone from Govardhan Hill that ended this particular soul's problems. Just one stone from Govardhan Hill. And a Brahman that knew he was going to be eaten, just by reaction, the thought just threw the stone at him. And now he not only was not going to be eaten, but his soul now got out of the monster body. And described the situation. As a matter of fact, as he was talking, getting to the end of his description to Brahman, then a wonderful chariot came, splendid like 1,000 suns, as Kadasavika describes it, drawn by 10,000 horses, came from Goloka Vrindavan, from the spiritual world. And when he finished his conversation with the Brahman, he approached the chariot, got on it, and went back to the spiritual world. So by meeting Brahman, not only was his activities, his karma, his bad karma that he was suffering under, that time was a monster body, stopped. But when he described the glories of just one rock from Govardhan Hill, his life was changed. So when we associate with pure devotees, our lives will change also. It's just a question of how much we ourselves want to get into the things that we are directed to do and not do, so we can go back Godhead. Hare Krishna. So the text again, I'll just read the translation. So Bhishma is speaking. Being the absolute personality of Godhead, he's present in everyone's heart. He's equally kind to everyone. And he's free from false ego of differentiation. Therefore, whatever he does is free from material inebriety. He's equibalanced. So Krishna sometimes works himself or works through his devotees or his energies. And in this particular one, he worked through the Brahman, and the glorification of Govardhan Hill came into play also, because it was just a rock that changed and stopped this particular demon's punishment that he was going through. But he suffered a lot. And if you just do one sin after another, there's heavy price that you have to pay. But for us, as long as we keep chanting the holy name of the Lord and stop being offensive to devotees, we have a very good chance of going back to God. Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so any comments? Sita Mataji? Looks like your hand is up.
Yes, Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Please, so I have a question. You said, and we know that association with pure devotees definitely can change your life. But what always bothers me, and is because of my lack of knowledge, is
you're all learning, but go ahead.
Yeah, we're trying. That there are all these devotees initially when Srila Prabhupada came to America.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
There were these devotees wanting to be devotees, who came in touch with Srila Prabhupada, but then they somehow didn't continue. How do I put that in my head? How do I understand that?
Very important question. Yes, so Srila Prabhupada came to the West, and there were those who connected with him, but not everyone stayed with him. Stayed the whole process through. In fact, there are, I should say, two conceptions connected with this: Vani and Vapu. Vani and Vapu. The personality, and his charm, we could, for lack of a better way to put it, and the person's instruction. Srila Prabhupada, the pure devotee of Krishna from Golok Vrindavan, you would think, just like, because the way you phrase the question, you would think that anyone that associates with him is fortunate and will stay the course the whole way through, no matter what happens. And that's how I'm reading into the question that you put. So why would anybody want to leave Srila Prabhupada or Krishna consciousness after being with someone like that? It depends on, remember, we still have our free choice, so it depends on the extent to which we connect with them. And it also depends on another thing, devotee association. If we take devotee association seriously, and we learn from those who have learned from Srila Prabhupada and are going according to Srila Prabhupada's instructions, his do's and don'ts, we learn from them and stay around them, the chances are very high that we will stay with the process, with Krishna consciousness, and not leave. But there's always temptation, material temptation, to satisfy our senses instead of work to satisfy Krishna's senses. And so it is important not only to have association of devotees, but to have good association where the person is reminding himself or herself about what Krishna has said to do through his pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada, and person staying with those people and regarding those devotees as special in our lives, those devotees that go by what Srila Prabhupada has said to do, day in, day out. Those who didn't do that were only fascinated with Srila Prabhupada as a personality because, of course, his purity is fascinating. And the work that he was doing was fascinating. His movements, if you hear some of the videos that have been recorded of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, them describing the kind of personality he was, yes, you can be mesmerized. But if you're mesmerized by that only, and don't take the process seriously, chant your rounds here, and those things that he said to do, then one day, as it did happen, Shiva Prabhupada would leave the body and be gone, and you never took the work seriously, the service seriously. And that's when, especially when we get into distress, distress comes because that's where we're weakest. Then Maya would say, well, you know, there's this sense gratification. Why have you left it? Who stopped you? Why can't you get back into it and satisfy yourself? And if you buy into that and get away from those who are taking the process seriously, the bhakti process seriously, then you're going to fall. People who do that, they fall down. And so we need to be in association of devotees that move us forward. We can always tell by how they are like and what they say. And when we move forward like that, when we stay with them, we will move forward, and then that will be our protection. We need to also hear. So some of the things that happen may have been from devotees maybe not being kind to some of them, and they came up with excuses that we don't like being around these people, then they left, and then they left Krishna consciousness altogether when Srila Prabhupada left. But that's also on us. If somebody is not treating you nice, not every devotee is a person that doesn't treat people nicely. So it's also important for us to be respectful to everyone, but to relate to someone who helps us to grow and is fixed up themselves. So had that happened, then many of the devotees who left when Srila Prabhupada left would not actually have left. But one more point about it is, Narada Muni says that everything that anyone has done in Krishna consciousness, even if they're not successful in this life, is not lost. In this process, there's no loss or diminution. Even those who are gone, there's an opportunity to take the next birth and come into Krishna consciousness again by the mercy and kindness of the Lord. So all is not lost with them, but the opportunity to go back to Godhead is literally postponed by the way they acted. That, you know, that you can't do anything about. Hare Krishna. Very good question you brought up.
Thank you. No, it has been always on my mind that, you know, gosh, you know, you got Srila Prabhupada. How is it that you know, because I see, you know, so many Prabhupada devotees, and just the compassion that they have and the surrender that they have. And I just Guru Maharaj, and I was like, gosh, you know, can I ever be even like 0.1% like him? You know,
that.
it's just like, oh, Krishna, you know, Krishna. So yeah, you know, they're so fortunate to be with Prabhupada, and then how is it that they left? It's so hard. But anyway, you're right. We have our free will, and we have to utilize it properly.
Yeah.
And yeah,
it's
thank
just
you.
the extent of connection. Just the extent of connection with Bhakti that wasn't so strong. And so other reasons came up, and they just bought it, and then they have temporarily left the path. They are all temporary though, temporarily left the path. They won't leave the path totally. There's another life for them, an opportunity to come back to this.
So we have
like you gave the boat concept in the Prabhu. So how we go in the boat, or we just want to swim up by ourselves, that is up to us.
Yeah.
But
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Mataji.
Hare Krishna, dear brother. Please do not get
Hare
to
Krishna. Please have a humble obeisances.
You answered, thank you so much. You answered that question so thoroughly. The aspect of offenses, which is intentionally causing anxiety to living entities, is of course an aspect. And I wanted to ask, and it's similar to what she just asked, knowing what is good association. Some people think it's people who give big donations. Some people think it's because one has a title. Some people think it's because someone goes to Mangalarti every morning. Would you please give reference as to what it actually is, so that there's less misunderstanding and people following behaviors that are not actually appropriate for the practice of bhakti? Hare Krishna.
Devotees have intelligence, And even though you describe some things that, some people may get up, they might go to Mangalarti. By the way, if you transition Mangalarti and other things like chanting, it's always purifying. So even a person who is struggling, if they do those things, the purification by the mercy of the Lord will come eventually. Still, it's on us. If a person goes to Mangalarti and during the chanting time, they may be doing things that are not according to instructions of Srila Prabhupada. They may be wasting time. They may be offensive to other people when they are around devotees. Clearly, our intelligence tells us that this is not the person to associate with. You can be kind to that person, but you don't associate with a person that is, in fact, in some sort of difficulty. The signs would show by how they act and what they say. The signs would show where they are at. That's why we have Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. When we have devotees that act according to what Guru says to do, act according to the consistency of what the Shastra has laid out, our own intelligence can tell us. So intelligence, remember, our intelligence is connected with the instructions from the Paramatma. That's why the intelligence can distinguish what's right and what's not right from the Paramatma. You can't go wrong with Paramatma's instruction to the intelligence, to us. So we'd be able to tell. So all of the times we have to remind ourselves what the instructions are for us to follow. Now, if somebody is not following the instructions of the spiritual master, of Srila Prabhupada, and also obviously consistency is there, we are even fortunate that he has written and translated the Shastra and given purpose to it. So what he said and then what he wrote, they're all consistent. It's all for us to learn. So if somebody is not doing that, then one, we don't take association from them. We give our association in terms of reminding them what is wrong, but you don't tell a person that you're doing something wrong because maybe their false ego will kick in and they'll start fighting you. So your approach is also very important. You can say, Prabhu, can we do this? And then you mention something that is right according to devotional life. Maybe we can do this particular thing. And then suggest that whatever that thing is, and then if they agree to work with you or to be around you for it, then you are actually helping the person out of the Maya that they are in. So that's one way. And it applies to all kinds of situations. That's only just hearing and chanting, and you can do that. Somebody comes to hear, and one time or for a while, you haven't seen them come on to hear the morning Bhagavatam lecture. You can, if you know the connections to them, you can call and ask, is there something we can help you with? It seems like, for a while now, we haven't seen you, so offer yourself as to serve that person. So they're not going to take it that you just came to criticize them. It is a trend that you've noticed, and they know the trend is true. You know it's true. They know it's true. But you're offering yourself to help. When we assist each other like that, then the chances are very high that many of us, if not all of us, will in fact stay the course and be able to go back to Godhead. The thought of entering another dark womb, it should scare everybody. I don't know. It scares me like anything. After it's been described, I've been a baby a long time ago and come out in this lifetime with this physical body. It's also gotten old. And when you get old, there's the whole things that the body gives you trouble. So these things are real now in our lives as we age. So we should be kind enough to try different ways, pray about that, and try different ways to help everybody stay the course. And that connects with Mataji's question, Sita Mataji's question, that it is unfortunate that Srila Prabhupada has given us so much, and then some people somehow don't stay the course. Sometimes the things that happen to us should be warning to us how bad material work can be. because I talked about a situation of me almost getting involved in an accident. I actually have been involved in an accident before, but somehow it came out. The car was totaled and I was still in one piece. Still, only in the material world would there be accidents. No accident in the spiritual world. Go back home, it's bliss all the time. So to remember that is quite important. And then we should use our own compassion to help others also to stay in the boat. When others are in Maya and we see it, we should do what we can to help so that the person also moves on. Hare Krishna. These are very touchy questions that you brought up, and I'm glad you brought them up. So this is very, very important for us. We have the opportunity. We just have to do the right thing to go home. Hare Krishna.
Very nicely you answered, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Parikshit Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Krishna's mercy. Hare Krishna.
You answered very good.
Hare Krishna.
You answered very good. Thank you very much for
Oh,
that.
Krishna's mercy, Guru's mercy. I mean, you say the answers, but I'm rumbling from my heart because I'm so concerned.
That's
I'm
why
so concerned.
we need devotee association. That's why.
Yes. Good devotee association.
Good
Give
devotee.
association to those who need to be picked up. The more we help others, the more Krishna is pleased with us. When we say others, it doesn't mean only non-devotees. Yes, we can introduce non-devotees to Krishna consciousness, at the very least to give them prashadam, so that, the seed is sown. But for us too, so Sita Mataji, I'm with you. We all, I mean, a part of me worries. this better be right for this lifetime. I can't afford to keep myself like that. It's extremely important. Extremely important that we stay the course. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so
we
much.
Just have to beg, we just beg, please keep us going. I'm only laughing in my face, but in my heart, I'm crying practically. This better be, we better do the right thing. We better do the right thing. Because Krishna, Guru, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, did all for us. So somehow, let us stay the course, stay on the boat.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya pattanam pavani.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Parikshit.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, wonderful class.
Krishna's mercy, Guru's mercy.
Yeah. Great to see you.
Hare Krishna.
How was Ram Nomi at Harrisburg?
It was one. Okay, I'll take only a couple minutes to say a little bit about it. So yeah, Ram Nomi, Anshia, who's the temple president, before that said that he would like the devotees to do some skits, some short plays, and maybe a couple of minutes. The Matijis wanted to do, the men wanted to do, and then the youth also wanted to do some. So they all took different parts of Ramayana, different parts of the pastime, and then they acted it out. And they did so well that the lecture that was supposed to be for 1 hour had to be cut to a half hour because people were so excited, about Lord Ram's pastimes. So yeah, it turned out very, very, very well, very enthusiastic.
Yeah. Wow, sounds really nice, people. I'm glad you guys had a great celebration. Yeah, no, it's very joyous, very joyous. Yes, a lot of nice kirtans. We had an abhishek, a nice class.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there was Pushpa Abhishek for us too. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Have a great day,
Krishna.
people.
Hare Krishna. Same to you. Same to everybody.